Right, so we're going to be talking about Spring Unending today. Now, I had come into Spring Unending with the assumption that it would be a story on the curse of longevity, right? Watching the world pass by while you remain unchanged, being unable to form lasting attachments for the fear of inevitable loss, the eventual hardening of one's heart and the loss of humanity, etc., etc. I was expecting something in the same vein as Eternity's anecdote. It was a reasonable expectation, I think, given the subject matter, but upon actually reading it and thinking about it, I think I was pretty much mistaken. While it did seem like the story was moving in that direction with Heron's character at first, ultimately she seemed quite content to simply meander along with the flow of time. The ailment of immortality never really seemed to register as a concern with her after even several hundred years had passed. So in that case, if this idea of longevity as a curse isn't where the thematic conflict for the story lies, then where is it? Well, the story is littered with heavy Taoist influences, so let's just begin there. Taoism is, simply put, to follow Tao, or the way. That is to say, the way things develop naturally, the way nature moves along, and living beings growing and declining in accordance with cosmic laws. Taoism, then, and the cultivation of Tao is the practice of harmonizing oneself with Tao, the flow of the natural world, essentially. Taoism holds that humans are inherently aligned with Tao, but our nature gets in the way, eventually pulling us out of that harmony. And Spring Unending shows us people who have fallen out of alignment with the way. Ren and Mayfly's paths are depicted as a rejection of the way, to impede and go against the current. Ren denies the workings of heaven, seeking to slay one of the Jandao beasts, Lanju, something that Heron warns could bring a greater catastrophe. All is part of a greater cycle, cataclysm, and mending in an endless causal chain. To upset one aspect is to throw the rest off kilter. But Ren rejects humanity's place in the divine mechanism. She rejects the fact that Lanju will need to be sealed time and time again, that someone is going to have to sacrifice themselves, and humanity is just one aspect of a greater ecosystem. She is the antagonist, yes, but not because she seeks power or because she sacrifices her students to get to it, or even because she's just kind of mean, but because she flows counter to the way, seeking instead to set humanity separate and even paramount to it. And the punishment for this hubris is fitting, right? Having never truly understood the way, she was unable to realize that its flow had reversed, that tapping into Lanju's power now in the present would siphon her chi as opposed to bolstering it, returning her to a powerless insect, a literal return to her origins. Now, speaking of insects, Mayfly and really the entire school of May is much the same, though less grandiose and more earnest in their pursuits. They seek longevity, though not to find harmony with the world, but to reject their own short lifespans, and this too goes against the flow. We see in Heron's explanation and in her character story that longevity and cultivation are the byproducts of seeking harmony with the world, not necessarily the end goal. None of the White Horse School sought longevity or power for its own sake. If anything, their goals were quite modest. One sought martial prowess, one sought knowledge, and Heron herself sought only to be a street food vendor. Even Pearl Finch, the one Heron deemed most suited to carry on the school's legacy, was more concerned with keeping the affairs in order and carrying out her duties than expressly seeking immortality for its own sake. Yet, with the Yao it is the opposite. Longevity is all they care for. The process is just an inconvenient hurdle, with them even lamenting the fact that the proper way to it is so long, choosing instead to take a shortcut through Master Ren with, devastating results. Mayfly at least reconciles with the way many lifetimes later, as Reed finding purpose and drive in her short lifespan, still seeking longevity, yes, but accepting of the fact that it may never be within her reach, choosing instead to live her life short as it may be. With Chung and Heron, the stagnation is more direct, if still somewhat metaphorical. They are stuck in some manner. Chung's whole thing is that he cannot move on with his life. He is stuck in this self-inflicted hamster wheel of honor, forever placating those above him, trying to repent for a crime that is not his, bound by both an ailing mother and a father whose name is Mud. And his role in Spring Unending echoes this, right? His adamant refusal to drop the case, his efforts pointed in a direction that could never bear fruit because the seeds for success, or at least the success he had envisioned, had never been planted there to begin with. It is fitting, then, that the end of Cheng's journey is marked by the burning of his home, not only the symbol of his family, but also a direct parallel to the thing that started it all, the botched raid and the fire that exiled his father and shamed his name. And finally, Heron, as unconcerned as she may seem, is still bound by lingering attachments. The assumed drawback of longevity, that is, the loss of her senses, was actually not even that. Rather, it was the remnants of unprocessed grief, of never having properly parsed the loss of her school and, for all intents and purposes, her family. Right, despite her carefree demeanor, the one thing that she consistently strives to preserve in the world is a reminder that the White Horse School once existed. She is hesitant to remove Pearl Finch's seal on the tree, and with it the last vestige of her senior's presence. She protects the longevity sword with her life to the point that she grievously injures herself in the process, because for it to be destroyed would be for the last legacy of the White Horse School to be destroyed. But eventually, all things must vanish. A sword is just a sword. A seal is just a seal. To attempt to preserve them after their allotted time has passed is to impede the flow and invite stagnation. To destroy them does not erase their legacy. That's just sentiment, right? She herself is the living continuation of the White Horse School. And so she shatters the final blade of longevity, and with it her final attachments to the past are severed. The score is settled. In a sense, Spring Unending is a story of cultivation itself, shedding the bindings that hinder alignment with the way and becoming one with the flow once more. There is this recurring idea that keeps popping up in various traces and dialogues in the story, the idea that the times are changing, that the old is being replaced, and to an extent, that is true, right? Change is inevitable, but is the thing that replaces it really all that different, or is it just another expression of the natural order? The form may shift, yes, but the essence and idea behind them persists. The ending to these stories are, similarly and fittingly, cyclical in nature, right? Calamity waxes and wanes. Life gives way to death, gives way to new life. What begins in fire ends in fire. The destruction of one begets the rise of another. New to old, student to teacher, ebb and flow, push and pull. The workings of heaven and earth ultimately converge on null, on equilibrium. All is part of a greater cycle. The more things change, the more they stay the same. But that's gonna be it. I really thought I was cooking with the pre-patch conditions, I can't lie, but it turns out I was just LARPing. I have heard some people mention that they felt Spring Unending kind of lost the plot towards the end, with Reed so easily giving up on longevity and Cheng ultimately being in the wrong for jailing the Yao but never really facing retribution for that. But I think that sort of reading kind of misses the point of the story entirely, right? At its heart, it's less a story of a conflict of good versus evil or who is righteous, and more an introspection of reconciling one's own hang-ups, right? The things that prevent them from aligning the way. And to that end, I think it did the job well enough. Thank you to my YouTube members, Chip II, Der Puffer, and Pampa Aerostar, and on the Patreon side, thank you to Paul A. The support truly means a whole lot. And to the rest of you, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on the next one, okay? Bye-bye.